Hi there, Thuy. So we've got more work from you. Wonderful. It's nice to see that you're working really hard for your IELTS preparation, so good for you. Let's take a look at this set of essay. The first one is about problems with pollution and how those problems can be solved. Here's what you said. Nowadays, every country has, in a singular here, has to face the severe, you don't face with something, okay? So you say you face something. So nowadays, every country has to face the severe problem of pollution, especially in cosmopolitan cities. Although governments implemented various solutions to address this issue, pollution is still making a plea to handle because of many reasons, such as overusing private vehicles, ineffective waste disposal, and inadequate environmental regard of citizens in consumption. As a result, abundance of methods to cope with types of pollution are necessary to apply. Okay, this is all very nice. However, I do kind of feel like some of your vocabulary is not as precise as you want it to be. So first of all, I didn't really understand this expression, a plea to handle. Felt a little strange to me. Okay, pollution is still making a plea to handle. I didn't get that. And then this was also a little strange. Abundance of methods to cope with types of pollution are necessary to apply. It just didn't feel particularly natural. I think what you really just wanted to say is, as a result, solutions to cope with the various types of pollutions are necessary. Done. Okay? It's clearer, it makes sense, and we understand that you're going to address both the problems and the solutions here. So let's see your body paragraphs. It is undeniable that the exhaust fumes from means of transport are polluting seriously our atmosphere. Careful with your word order. Are seriously polluting our atmosphere. Okay, grammatical mistake here and then vocabulary mistake. Let's try it again. It is undeniable that exhaust fumes from means of transport are seriously polluting our atmosphere, creating air pollution in many cities. Annually, millions of tons of carbon dioxide from commercial flights, get rid of the, from commercial flights, cars, I don't know why you say the proper cars, just cars, heavy trucks, get rid of urban delivery services, just say these things, okay? From commercial flights, cars, heavy trucks, and motorbikes, brutally, you can't really say, you know what? What you're looking for here is a good collocation. I don't know if you're familiar with what collocations are, but they're words that go together just because they do, just because we're used to hearing them together, you know, over and over. Certain things just sound natural, and some things just don't. Here, we don't really say brutally harm something, especially when you mean it metaphorically. So, let's see what we could do here. I want to try this sentence again, if you don't mind, all right? So, annually, millions of tons of carbon dioxide from commercial flights, cars, heavy trucks, and motorbikes destroy the fresh air, and even worse, they damage the ozone layer. Full stop. All right, so you can see in this one sentence, I really made a lot of changes. It wasn't incoherent. I understood everything, but just was full of little mistakes that took away from its accuracy. Let's move on. Governments, get rid of the. Then, no. Governments, non-government organizations, and international organizations acknowledge the urgency, and they have done many campaigns to raise awareness of people and call for action, singular. Unfortunately, many reasons people are so indifferent that they let air quality deteriorate, without the S, without any intervention. Okay, so what's happened here, Thuy, is that you really haven't talked to us. You haven't really developed this. I know you have a lot of words, but you haven't really developed the problem. So let me explain to you what I mean. and this is really important when you're tackling a problem and solution essay. They really don't differ very much from other essays. In other words, you have a main idea and you have to support that main idea. One of the ways you can support it is by answering the question why or how. Okay? So that is true in all of these essays, no matter what the question is. You have a main idea. You say, I think X. Okay, well, why? Why do you think X? Or how is X accurate? How is it something that we should believe in? Okay, or that you should convince us of. So it's really the same thing here with problem and solutions essays. All right, now you've told us that air pollution is a problem, and then you've told us what's caused the air pollution. You said it's flights, cars, trucks, etc. Okay, now tell me why. Tell me how. Okay, so that's just to give you a little information about the first body paragraph. Let's move on. Now, I see here, looking at your essay, you've done something very interesting. You actually have used a lot of paragraphs. My mouse is not cooperating. There we go. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to remind you that we typically suggest a 4-paragraph structure, all right, where you've got an introduction, you've got 2 body paragraphs, and then 1 conclusion. Those 2 body paragraphs, in other words, 1 should be for the problems, 1 should be for the solutions, okay? So, in other words, introduction, problems paragraph, solutions paragraph, and then conclusion, all right? So, I don't know what you've done here. Let's find out what you did here, because I see 6 paragraphs, so let's move on. Besides, regarding to water and land pollution in urban areas, while local habitants produce an enormous amount of garbage, the number of waste disposals and waste treatment centers are still very limited. Consequently, household trash are emitted and accumulated in the city and pollute the urban environment. Furthermore, in many countries, the poor quality of drainage systems let the used water flow freely and enter into pure water resource. In undeveloped countries, for example, fresh water is still a precious desire of urban habitants. Okay, so what you've done here is a little bit of what I wanted to see in the previous paragraph. So you've explained some of those hows and whys here, but you really didn't need to put this in a separate paragraph, okay? It should have been linked back up to this one. They should have been all part of one paragraph. You could have just said a second cause of pollution. All right, because besides is not accurate here. So that's what I would have liked to see. A second cause of pollution affects water and land in urban areas. So full stop. Then local inhabitants produce an enormous amount of garbage, yet the number of waste disposal and waste treatment centers are still very limited. Consequently, household trash is emitted is the wrong word here. Discarded probably is what you mean. Household trash is discarded and it accumulates, not ED, but S, in the city and pollutes with an S the urban environment. Furthermore, in many countries, the poor quality of drainage system lets with an S, poor quality of the drainage. It has to be an S here because your noun is poor quality. You're just telling us which poor quality. So the poor quality of drainage system lets the used water flow freely and enter pure water resources. S, in undeveloped countries, for example, singular, fresh water. This doesn't make any sense. I don't understand that. Is a precious desire. It's a precious resource. Okay? But that doesn't make sense. What does that mean it's a precious resource for urban inhabitants? So it's unclear. You needed to reword it. All right, so this would have been good. This would have given us 2 reasons for the pollution, and then that would have been a very strong, very well-developed paragraph, okay? Let's see what your other paragraphs do here, and my mouse is still being very strange. I don't know why. Okay, there we go. So, additionally, industrial activities play a primary role in all kinds of pollution. Wait, so is this another problems paragraph? No, this is too much. You really just need to focus on 2. Just 2 problems, not 3. So, all kinds of pollution. Fine. Although currently many nations are restructuring their cities and constructing or industrial zones far away from residential areas, they could not prevent all effects of factories on urban life. Due to the movement of rivers, toxic with a C, substances in a remote region could have an impact on a city. Similarly, air pollution in a province could affect air quality index in the capital because of wind flow. All right, you really needed to just pick your two strongest ideas. Quite frankly, I think that these two paragraphs here were stronger and much better developed than this one was. This one, you didn't answer those hows and those whys. You did it here. Here you absolutely did it. But you needed to just focus on two of these, not three. And develop a paragraph just around those. All right, let's move on. In order to deal with pollution, we can implement some methods. Firstly, the governments this is really informal. The governments should set a limit of fume emission for vehicles circulating in the city and simultaneously impose an environment tax on car producers and airlines. Secondly, each individual and urban inhabitants, in the particular, I don't know what that means, should respect nature, conserve their habitat, get rid of space, just habitat, that's it, by reducing plastic packaging, by recycling and classifying household garbage before throwing it to the trash bin, into the trash bin. Thirdly, about industrial manufacture, it is absolutely necessary that they have to construct, all right, let's clean the grammar up. It is absolutely necessary to construct waste disposal systems to avoid dangerous effects on the surroundings. So let's talk about the problem here. What I told you before is that problem solutions essays, they need to have those hows and whys. So here, what did you do here? This isn't a paragraph, Thuy. This is a list. Look, it's a firstly, it's a secondly, it's a thirdly. It could have been a bulleted list, but it's certainly not a paragraph. Why? Because you never told me how or why. So you said they should set a limit of fuel emissions. Oh, really? How does this help? Why would this help? Can you give me an example of someplace where it did help? All right, the same thing here. So you cannot just write a list of solutions. You must develop them. Each of these solutions that you present has to have some sort of support. Whether it's a how, whether it's a why, whether it's an example of what you're talking about, where it was successful. All right? But it should never, ever, ever read like a list, and that's what happened here. In conclusion, we can summarize three primary factors, which I don't understand this word, in train pollution, which are vehicles, households, and industrial factories to ensure a good environment for future generations and our healthy life in the long term. We need to promptly implement word order. That doesn't make sense. The effective ways on a hectic pace. I don't understand this. So, fine, promptly implement. You have to implement something on something, but I don't understand what you're implementing on what. That's a little confusing. It's a problem with vocabulary. All right, now we spent a ton of time on this. I really want to move on to your task one. I want to remind you to please, please, please send us the image that you're working on. All you have to do is just copy and paste it into your document. It's very helpful for me, and I need to refer to it sometimes in my corrections. And it also helps you understand some of my suggestions a little better when we have it in front of us. So here's what you wrote. The bar chart shows information singular. It's uncountable, okay? On automobile consumption. Nobody is consuming automobiles. People are buying them. So on automobile sales of 3 brands in 9 European nations in 2018, overall in Europe, car preference varied a lot, and BMW is the brand it was in 2018. Was the brand which had the largest market share. Full stop. That's good. Perfect. So you got your intro, you've got your overview. So far, so good. Lovely. Okay, let's see what you said. While in France and in Hungary, two most automobile-consumed countries, the proportion of car sales were relatively equal. In some other markets, such as the UK, Belgium, and Italy, consumers tended to buy very few cars of Audi and in comparison to sales of Ford and BMW. For example, in 2018, Audi sold more than 100,000 cars in Germany, but in the Belgium, there were only 2,000 or 3,000 automobiles purchased. As we can see from the graph, BMW, let me just look at this one more time. Okay. Let me read that paragraph again. Give me a second. All right, let's move on. I'll talk about it in a minute. As we can see from the graph, it's not a graph, it's a bar chart. So as we can see from the chart, BMW was the best seller of the year with a remarkable, that should be a K, market share in 8 over 9 countries in the statistics. Okay. Apart from Belgium, this car manufacturer distributed to each market more or less 100,000 cars. Excellent right there. Going right, I don't like this, going right after. Just after BMW, Ford sold more than 100,000 automobiles in 4 countries. Although Audi had a good sales record in Germany and Hungary, they fell, double L, behind with the 2 remaining competitors. I don't understand that, but okay. Let me check your word count. All right, yeah, you did have a good word count, but something happened here. Like I said, it would have been helpful if you had this. Some of this I liked. You were on the right track, but somewhere along the way, you got kind of lost. So your intro was great, your overview was great, and you did something that I liked. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You focused on the countries, okay? And then here you focused on the car companies. And that's a great way to do this. But you know what? I really can't do this without the graph, so let me bring it up for you. Okay, so what we've got here is a stacked bar chart. And what does that mean? It means that essentially we're really concerned about these total numbers, okay? That's what we're really looking at, the numbers of these particular countries. But not just that, but we want to look at what distribution is making up those numbers, okay? So, essentially what you're looking at, in fact, is not 27 pieces of information, but it's actually 36. All right, so you've got this total here, of which Hungary has the highest, and then et cetera, et cetera. So if I were to write this, this is how I would have done it. Just exactly what you did. Introduction, overview. Then I would have spent one paragraph talking about these total numbers, because that's why it's stacked. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this. So I would start by saying that the highest number of cars were sold in Hungary, just below 400,000. This was followed by France at just over 300,000. The lowest number of cars were sold by Belgium at under 100,000. And in second to last was Italy with around 120,000. The remaining countries sold between, name them, okay? UK, Germany, Ireland, blah, blah, blah. Sold between 200 and 270,000 cars. Then you go to the next paragraph where you talk about the individual car companies. How do you do that? So, well, here you're going to have to do a little math, maybe, a little subtraction, a little guesswork. I absolutely agree with what you said here. In all countries, BMW sold approximately 100,000 cars. The only exception was Belgium, where it sold a negligible amount. All right, then you could say Ford was the second most sold car. It sold, and figure out what this number is, it sold X number in Hungary and Holland. It sold the least in Germany and Italy at whatever that number is. And in the remaining countries, it sold between A and B, whatever that range is. I don't know what the range is. But figure out what this means. It looks like it's around 50,000, okay? And, you know, just something like that. And between 50 and 100,000. And that's how you're going to deal with each car brand, okay? So just a couple of sentences about each car brand, and you're essentially saying all the information. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand how you need to look at this and how you need to do it. You did have a lot of good things, but talking about ranges and grouping, because like I said, you have 36 pieces of information. You need to mention lots of things. You don't want to mention absolutely every single thing. You don't need to mention that this was 75,000, but this was 80,000, this was 36,000. Nobody cares. But you do need to provide the information so that the person reading this does get a nice solid understanding of what you're looking at. Okay? Keep that in mind. I really want to hear your feedback in your email. If you understood these suggestions and my comments, let's see more work from you. I'm looking forward to it. Okay? So good luck.